everyone. Good morning or good evening to all the speakers and audience joining from across the globe. Welcome to the session 6 of the series Women in Design Fest 2021, brought to you by UMO Design School. Excel your career in design by opting in full-fledged design certification course and master classes. Cohort starts today on April 10th. Thank you so much for investing your time on a Saturday. My name is Vandana Jagnathan. I am a senior UX designer and your host for today. I am joining in from Toronto, Canada, and weather here is getting warmer and quite bright and sunny today. Looking forward to summer here, and we are all excited for it. If you are all joining from different parts of the globe, please feel free to say hi on the comment section from where you're joining and let everyone know so that we make this more like an interactive session. So, objective for today. UMO Design is incredibly proud to have played its part over the years by celebrating women empowerment in design. Women in Design manifests our gratitude to all the women who have set a benchmark in design and related domains. Women in Design is intended to encourage, inspire, and educate 1 million women and girls to become designers by 2030. To take part in this movement, we aim to provide 150K USD scholarships to educate 100 women aspirants in design essentials and UX design via our UMO Design School this year. Apply now to join the first 100 UMO Women in Design scholarships, wherein 3 months of design essentials and UX courses will get you certified, along with one-on-one mentorship with design leaders. So here is the agenda for today. So we have 5 talks for 18 minutes. Then we have a panel discussion followed by an interactive job board. Welcome back. So before we start, just a quick reminder to the audience, please feel free to post your questions on the chat or the comment section, and we will try to address as many questions as possible if time permits. If not, you can follow up with us to clarify some of the questions that's missed today. And also a quick reminder, we would be also trying to address questions via the chat. If not, like also email us with the questions, and then we will get back to you on that. So for our first talk, we have Thea Betts. Thea Betts is a product design lead at Rome. She's joining us from New Zealand. She's a UX and a product designer who is passionate about creating beautiful and seamless user experiences. Over the past years, she has worked from initial strategy concepts all the way through delivering polished mobile apps and responsive web solutions. Welcome, Thea. So she would be talking with us, talking and sharing with us some of her design and leadership journeys over the past 7 years, from her journey from the intern to a design lead. Welcome, Thea. Over to you.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. So yes, as you mentioned, my name's Thea and I'm a senior product designer based in New Zealand. So first off, wow, what an honor to be here giving this talk to all of you. Before I start, I just want to say thank you all for being here, and hopefully during this talk you'll learn something new and feel energized and inspired afterwards. So right now it's 2 a.m. here on a Sunday morning, so please excuse the poor lighting. Today I want to talk about my journey in design and becoming a leader, and share some of my advice and learnings. But first, a little bit about me. So I grew up in the capital of New Zealand, windy Wellington. I was the middle child in a family of 5 with an older brother and younger sister. And I had my first taste of leadership on the hockey field back when I was a teen. Today, I'm a design lead with over 7 years experience, and I've led countless projects, and I currently mentor some very talented designers. I remember my first day entering the world as an intern. Looking around the room, I quickly realised I was a minority and a female in a sea of men. This followed on to one of my first client meetings. Here I was a 20-something junior, presenting to a room of middle-aged businessmen on the features and functionalities of their new app. Although I was surrounded predominantly by males in the tech world, the design teams I've been on have always been super diverse. So here's a somewhat recent photo of my current design team in an offsite pre-COVID in the late 2019. In my first job, I had the support and mentorship of an incredibly talented female design lead who helped shape my confidence and believed in me. Unfortunately, I know not everyone has had the same experience, and the numbers show quite clearly that women don't always have an equal seat or voice at the table. In fact, a staggering low 11% of global design leadership roles are held by females. From a young age, a male is seen as being a leader, whereas girls with leadership qualities are seen as bossy, pushy, or argumentative. This narrative follows us into adulthood and the workplace. And while it's thankfully changing, we definitely need more females to step up, show up, and take charge. Being a lead is about so much more than being bossy, pushy, or argumentative. It's about being able to set the direction of the team, lead them, the project, the business to success. It's about putting your team first, no matter what. While this can be daunting, especially in male-dominated industries like tech, here is my story into leadership, from finding confidence in myself and my skills, through to developing my own leadership style for my current role, a people leader. Being a leader is something that I believe everyone has the capability to, and you can choose to do so regardless of your position. Over the years, my definition of leadership has changed. Today, I see leadership as sharing my knowledge, perspective, and stories with others, and helping them to navigate and solve problems they may be facing in their own way. So the question is, how can we get more females into leadership roles within design? How can we have our voices heard? I don't have all the answers, but today I want to share with you 2 things which I've encountered on my path to leadership. And I hope these will inspire you, regardless if you're in a leadership position or it's something you hope to be in the future. My first piece of advice I want to share with you is to embrace your inner critic and transform self-doubt into self-confidence. Who here knows what imposter syndrome is? For those of you who don't, it's likely something you've felt before but haven't named. It's feeling like a fraud, like you're lucky to be here and that you're not capable of doing your job. Who here has experienced imposter syndrome before? Throughout my career and to this date, I have personally experienced this feeling over and over again. Whether it's setting the direction of a large project, mentoring designers on their career aspirations, or writing this talk, wondering if I'll have something to say that will be inspiring to you all. The more I talk to friends and colleagues, the more I realize this feeling isn't uncommon. While most people experience imposter syndrome in some shape, way, or form, it seems to be something that women experience more than men. Whereas men tend to have the confidence in themselves, embrace the unknown, and believe they can, women tend to doubt themselves and put their achievements down to luck or timing. This is self-destructive. It questions our self-worth and puts everything we have achieved down to luck, not skill. On the other hand, if we change the narrative to embrace the unknown, have confidence in ourselves, and accept the challenge, it keeps us grounded, it keeps us humble, and it keeps us eager to learn more. I recently found this quote by Seth Godin, and it resonates with me and my experiences. I feel like an imposter often. That's because my best work involves doing things I've never done before. When I'm outside my comfort zone or doing something new to me, like learning a new design tool or trialing out a new technique, I feel imposter syndrome the most. But this is also where I find myself learning the most. When you're in your comfort zone, you're not pushing yourself, learning something new, or growing. You're safe, but stagnant. When you venture too far outside of your comfort zone, you start to feel stressed, anxious, like you're drowning. And this is where you need to reach out for colleagues or peers for support. But what I've found is that there's this magic sweet spot just outside the comfort zone, the ultimate growth opportunity. A lot of what you're doing is familiar, but not all of it. The ability to embrace the unknown and turn that feeling of imposter syndrome and self-doubt into something magical. A couple of years ago, I ran my first design sprint. It was something I'd wanted to do for a while, but I was nervous and almost didn't raise my hand to facilitate. But I'm glad I did. While I had run smaller workshops before, I learned more through facilitating that week than I had through many readings and smaller workshops. We, especially as women, need to remember to choose the narrative we tell ourselves, to embrace the unknown and have the confidence that we can do this. We need to cheer each other on and ourselves and remember that we deserve a seat at the table. Two years ago, I was given the opportunity to become a design lead. I almost declined the position due to my own personal self-doubt, but I knew that it was something I wanted to do. I wanted to help guide others as I had been guided. And now I'm going to share with you an insight into developing my personal leadership style. So this is my current design team. It's made up of 3 extremely talented female designers, Sherry, Choni, and Kenna. These ladies are amazing, and it's been such a privilege to support and watch their individual journeys in both life and work over the past few years. While it's been my responsibility to help nurture and inspire them, I find that they equally inspire me with their wisdom, friendship, skills every day. Now, we're all likely familiar with the foundational qualities of good leadership: good communication, supporting and inspiring each other, teamwork, and solving problems. So I'm not going to talk about these. Instead, I want to talk about being your honest self and leveraging that to lead. When I started my leadership journey, I felt out of my depths, like I was barely scraping by. I asked my team what I could do to help and shared my experiences with them. But I had no idea what I was doing, and this made me feel very, very guilty. Over time, I accepted that there is no one way to lead. Instead, I had to define my own. Our experiences from the moment we were born, our childhoods, our upbringing, all shape us into who we are today. They shape us as designers and as leaders. These unique perspectives, interactions, and life experiences are all so valuable for us to bring to the table and to our team. This last year, COVID-19 turned the world upside down. The lines between work and home were more blurred than ever. This is a photo of my home desk that we set up in about a 24-hour turnover as New Zealand went into lockdown late March. I found myself leading in the only way I knew how, by being myself leveraging my experiences, and being open and honest about the unknowns. While I had felt out of my depths and had been struggling with defining my leadership style, I learned recently that the designers that I had led had appreciated the honesty, the advice, and what I had shared with them. Now I want to share with you 5 simple techniques and learnings that I've experimented with since becoming a people leader. These have helped me develop my leadership style and are things which I bring into my leadership practice, and in particular, my one-on-ones weekly. First, starting a one-on-one meeting with the highlights and lowlights of the week. This helps breaking the ice and check in how we're feeling. Next, sharing my personal experiences or how I might have solved a similar product that they're facing in the past. I often find this sparks ideas and helps them to come up with an approach that might work for them and their situation. Skipping the meeting room and instead changing up the scenery for a chat while walking around the block or enjoying a coffee at a local cafe, while we can, of course. There is something about fresh air that's not only good for the soul, but great for an open and honest conversation. Asking, how can I help? There's not always something, but what I have learned is more often than not, there is. And accountability. Find something to be accountable for. Having the sense of accountability between catch-ups, between weeks, between months, helps motivate and action some of the things we've talked about. 2020 was a year. It's a year where I started to show more and more of myself at work and with my colleagues and with those that I lead. But I don't want it to stop there. As leaders, we have the opportunity to develop our own personal leadership styles by being ourselves and sharing our experiences and inspiring the next generation of designers into leadership. Today, I have shared 2 key themes with you, and these themes come from the struggles from my path as a leader, which I hope to inspire you. The first, embrace and seek out that magical moment of growth that comes from new experiences outside your comfort zone. And the second, leverage your own style and experiences to lead. No one else can lead like you, nor can you lead like anyone else. Thank you. Any questions?
Hi, Vandana. You're in mute, please.
Hi. I don't know. Like, sorry about that. I don't know why this tool like keeps me on mute, but yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, thank you so much, Thea. I hope I'll just repeat what I was saying. Like, sorry about that. Thank you, Thea, for sharing the insightful talk. It was really inspiring. And refreshing for all of us, and sharing some of your design journeys across the last 7 years from intern to a design lead. This really helps us like shape our own experiences and like self-realize how one could benefit by staying at home and using it for our professional benefits. So like one quick question I have, I still can see that people are saying they can't hear me. I hope you can hear me. Thea, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, one quick question I had was, how could one identify what's their leadership style? And I know you mentioned like over the journey, this was more of a self realization, but for someone who is starting their career newly at this or maybe just come out of the university right now at this when we are in pandemic, how could one like jump up, try to identify where they want to be and like move towards the leadership ladder?
Yeah, cool. So, so there's a few things there. One would be around probably finding leaders around them who inspire them and who they can kind of learn from. So what I've noticed is over the last couple of years, sort of from day one through to even currently today, when I'm in new meetings or meeting new clients, the design leaders in my team and outside of the design as well, that I find that kind of taking inspiration in little nuggets and from different people and then working out how you can apply that to yourself. And so while you can't lead in the same way that they can, there's kind of inspiration that I think you could take how they might facilitate really well or handle kind of including everyone, or the way they handle a particular meeting, or the way they talk to people on Slack or in channels. So there's kind of elements that you can take from someone else's design leadership style and then sort of work out how you can apply that to you to create your own style. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that clearly is true, because right now nobody can like actually have one-on-one conversations as much as possible. So like building that trust and like getting learning from other leaders who are trying to like present themselves virtually would be like great learning for all of us to do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. I hope like everybody had. Thank you, everyone. Welcome back. So for our next talk today, we have. Sorry, just a minute. Like there has been like some glitch here. Yeah. Sorry. So for our next talk today, we have Sandhya Valathajaman, Senior Interaction Designer from Frog, joining us from India. She's a creative problem solver and a passionate for building products and services that enable positive actions, behaviors, and experiences. And today she would be sharing with us a talk on reimagining education, opportunities to build an inequitable and optimistic future. Welcome, Sandhya. We are honored to have you here.
Thank you so much, Vandana, and thank you, Women in Design, for having me. I'll quickly start by first sharing my screen.
Sure.
Hello, everyone. To all those who have just joined, I am Sandhya. I'm a senior interaction designer at Frog. Over the past couple of weeks, I have been following on Women in Design stories and amazing, incredible journeys of women in design. And it makes me really excited and proud to be a part of this community and to see that women are making their mark as design leaders. I am extremely thrilled to be a part of this community. And also, I think for me, I consider myself as a design learner still. And what really inspires me and excites me is talking about real life challenges and speculating on the future and how designers can be change makers. The past 1 year has been extremely inconvenient and sort of difficult for everyone. And as we try to realign ourselves to the new normal, I honestly believe that these times, these uncertain times, are great opportunities for us to readdress some of the fundamental issues and to relook at some of the some of the ways in which we do things, in the way we learn, in the way we work, in the way we live, and help us in relooking at building a more optimistic future. What I hope to share with you all today are snippets from the research work that we did for a renowned client in the education domain. And we were addressed with this task of trying to find out how the pandemic has impacted education and how the future of education looks like. What we were trying to find out is how some of the short-term adaptations can have profound long-term implications in how we plan the future of learning space. So the first lesson that the pandemic has revealed, as clearly written here by Jal Mehta, who is a professor at Harvard Education, is that it has shown us the limits of one size fits all. And as we move away towards the new normal, I think we should try and look at what are the positives that has been shown to us through the pandemic. How has it accelerated education and helped education grow exponentially? The coronavirus pandemic has encouraged many industries, nations across the world to reconsider how they do things. And education is, of course, no exception. Schools and universities across the globe have responded real time to the pandemic by moving almost overnight. They have moved remote, and they are still trying to figure out the best way to impart learning, which all of the learners find it engaging. To those of us who have kids at home or who were locked down with kids, these images would not come off as a surprise. We all of us in our own capacities became creative problem solvers. Our home has become a hub for learning, living, and working. But while we have become creative problem solvers in our own capacity, it has also highlighted some of the inequities in education. Learning from home not only relies excessively on the access to devices and to technology and to Wi-Fi, but also depends heavily on the presence of physical space, family support, and more than anything else, the emotional bandwidth for learning. So when we started off to find out what are those silver linings, or if there are any silver linings in how education has been changed or altered due to the pandemic, the first question that we tried to answer was how might we use our learnings from the global pandemic to impart a positive change on our schools, colleges, and universities. To be able to answer this question, it requires us to build on what we know about education, what we know about how students learn, and then using that to implore opportunities on what students might need. What you see here on the screen are visuals from the research that we conducted with students, parents, and teachers across schools to find out how they are coping up with new ways of learning and teaching. What are their expectations from technology? How do they ensure equity and well-being? And what are the hopes for future? Of course, due to the pandemic, all these interviews were conducted remote, but nevertheless, it did help us gather a lot of data around these topics. What was interesting was while we felt that we might hear many challenges and pain points when we talk to our participants, what was interesting was there were a lot of silver linings that we came across. And with all the data around us, what required us to do was to synthesize it and to try and find these opportunities. So with infinite number of Chai Miro board, which was got sent during the pandemic, and a group of incredible women that I work with, we were able to cluster this data and find opportunities, which some of which that I would share with you. Uh, so what you see here on the right is what we heard from some of the participants. This is a quote from one of the teachers who said that a mix of live classes and recorded sessions help kids learn at their own pace and adapt as they progress. I think the norm we will turn up that we will turn to would be to provide a choice between virtual and physical medium. While some of the information or some of the learning would be imparted virtually through remote means, some of the learning would happen in the classroom. The classroom will now become a space where children come to discuss and debate what they have learned online. So even the role of the teacher now becomes more like a role of a mentor. And it's very interesting because now the teacher is able to give more attention to the students, and the students are also gaining skills into um, how to voice their opinion, and also develop other skills such as creative thinking, problem solving, etc. But while we move towards, or while we pivot towards the presence of remote learning tools, it's also important to address the inequities in remote learning, such as disparate access to technology. And we need to ensure that as much as physical classrooms are available to students, even the digital environments are accessible to all students. Um, One interesting thing that we heard from parents and from teachers was that when children are put in a virtual classroom where they have access to their peers and a reasonable access to technology, they really are adept at adopting it. They do not require much help. They are able to independently work, and that helps them get a sense of ownership of their education. And at the same time, when parents realize that their child is able to manage technology on his own, they also become less intrusive. So, what this leads us to is that in the future, there is a possibility of children being able to manage the education on their own. We see personalized learning coming to the forefront, which essentially means it's a form of instruction where the learning methodology and the methods of instruction are catered or customized to every student. This requires a heavy dependency on technology. So we see that there is going to be a lot of dependency on digital learning platforms, which allow students to work at their own pace and only move forward when they have fully grasped the material, as against what happens in the traditional learning environment where everyone is moving at the same pace, and the average student or someone who's a low performer or below average is not getting the kind of attention that he or she was supposed to get. Uh, on the challenges or on the not so good experiences was this point that most of the students came up with, is that they miss the games period, they miss talking to classmates, they miss the commute by bus and lunch break, all of which allowed them to keep in touch with their friends. One interesting insight that we heard is that the time that a child takes to commute or commute to the school in a bus is very important, because that's essentially a time where a child is just getting active in the day, and trying to embrace the embrace going to school. Whereas right now at homes, what is happening is that as soon as the child wakes up, he's pushed in front of the laptop, and he doesn't get enough time to join the class, and he's not as active. So what we see here going forward is that there needs to be collaboration and communication and teamwork for all students. While we are doing things remotely, the physical classroom or the place also becomes very valuable, because now you might have groups of students who come in at different points in the day, and they're collaborating in a group, and there are smaller groups instead of like one whole group of 50 students. Now we would see like smaller groups of 5-10 students who are working together on a group project. So that's where we see the future going, wherein it's more of a targeted learning. There is more collaboration, and something that helps them prepare for the world ahead, or the workplace ahead, where you generally work in smaller groups. We also had questions. We also asked questions around assessments and how they are going to change, and how they are currently happening, and how comfortable students are with assessments. And what we learned is that that teachers also feel that the way the assessments happen right now in a siloed environment with no noise or with no distraction is something that they want to get away with. They feel that it's not good for the well-being of the child. It's not something that is relatable to the future that lies ahead of us, ahead of them when they graduate. So what they are trying to replace it with is more creative assignments. You have case studies coming in, you have portfolios coming in, and opportunities for the student to display his curiosity, to voice his opinion, to voice his ideas. So that's where we see even assessments going, because that is something that prepares you to have social, emotional relationships with others. And that is something which we see would be changing in future. So that's the at a very high level, the sort of insights that we got when we did our research. And of course, there are a lot of these points that we did have, which were smaller points, but then these were the bigger themes that we came across. To conclude, I would like to say that during hardships, we often look to wrap ourselves in a blanket of familiarity. But a lot of times it is beyond the comfort zone or beyond the hardships that we actually see opportunities lying ahead of us. And if we do not react to those opportunities, they just get wasted. So what I'd like to say is that this opportunity is about growth. It's about reflection, and it's about knowing what needs to stay and what needs to go. If this presentation has intrigued you, you have more questions, or you would like to connect with me for more insights, please feel free to get in touch with me on LinkedIn or on Behance. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandhya. It was really an inspiring talk, and like sharing all your thoughts in terms of like how one could like imagine the education system like in this current scenario, because earlier we used to like monitor students and like maybe all the young children like not to be much on digital technologies, but be more physical and active and one-on-one. But now everything has changed completely, so they have to be like more well versed with the technology. And even there has been like so many challenges even for parents, like to have this technology in hand with them. Thank you so much for sharing some of these ideas and concepts that you have like come across through this journey. So there are a couple of questions in the chat, so which I would like to ask you. There is one question from Sharon. How do you think a remote school environment affects young students, do you feel the social interactions with other students are lacking and they might become introverts?
It's a very good question. And this is also something that we did ask the parents as to how this is emotionally impacting or what happens to the well-being of the child. And interestingly, we also asked our client who is in the education space, and they run schools. So what they said is that it is a concern for them, and they want students to come back to the classroom as early as possible, because a lot of times it might make children anxious when they come back. So it's been a year that they have been remotely learning, and now when they come back, it just causes anxiety to see so many people around and so much of noise around, because they are not used to that sort of an environment at home. So that's the reason I think even during the research we brought across this point that it's important to have the classroom. There is what we need going forward is a balance between the physical and the virtual. So there needs to be a physical classroom, and that is valuable again, because that helps you learn how to manage those social relationships. How do you express yourself in front of others? And again, your soft skills, right? Like how do you communicate? Because it's one thing writing down and it's one thing speaking up. So I think those things are also important. And one interesting insight that we saw is even teachers are trying to hold virtual skits, etc., just to bring out these qualities. So I think, I would say that a balance is required. We cannot be looking at something that is completely remote or completely in classroom. What we would go forward with is more of a hybrid environment.
Sure.
I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Sandhya. Yeah, that surely does. It's like also we have so many challenges because it's pretty new to everyone, right? Even the education system is trying to expand and trying to expand their technologies, their education system. So yeah, it's a very big learning curve for all of us. Great insight.
Yeah.
Thank you again. It's an honor to have you here and share your research insights with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome back. So for our next talk, we have hello. Can you guys hear me still? So for our next talk, we have Kavita. She is joining us from India. So Kavita is our experience design lead at ThoughtWorks, and her experiences include building and leading high-performing product management teams responsible for product vision, business strategy, planning, research, execution. And she would be sharing with us her talk on how to influence, like Kim Godwin. Welcome, Kavita. Over to you.
Thank you, Vandana.
Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Cool. So thanks, Vandana. Thanks for the intro. It's really nice to see you all here. And what a talk, Thea. I could completely relate to what you said with respect to the leadership styles. And Sandhya, I being a mom, I could also relate to most of what you told today. So thank you so much. So today I'm going to talk about influence by design and why it is important for we as designers. The topics that I'm going to cover today are why is influencing important? How can we go about influencing? So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we can include in the current process and how could we influence during the design thinking process. What are the different layers of influence? And finally, how do you influence the influencer, right? So before I do that, tell me if this sounds familiar to you. Could you just quickly design a landing page for me? Can we just make this button a bit bigger, or maybe in a red color? Or there just seems to be too much of white space, right? So can you Can we just add more content? I'm pretty sure most of us as designers could relate to things like this coming from different people from the team, right? What happens eventually is we end up designing for artifacts or designing for deliverables. What we don't do is we don't really get the opportunity to think through the design solutions. We end up just designing for what the ask is. So we as designer, it becomes very critical for us to influence people along the way, to tell them that the value of the design is not only for the users but for the overall business. But it's really tough because right now in most of the cases design comes like an afterthought or a force fit, right, rather than being part of the process. So what is it that you can do to sort of influence throughout your way? So I'm going to share my experiences of how I was able to do that. Now, before that, I think this is what the dictionary says. The meaning of influence is the capacity to have an effect on someone or something. So, why is influencing important? Now, there were different reasons that came to my mind when I was putting up this presentation, but there were at least 4 important points that I thought I should be sharing with you. So, the first one is design has a value, not only for the users but for the business, right? So I think we need to really highlight the value that design brings back to the business. The second is influencing is important because only then you can create new ideas, right? If people believe you that there is a business value attached to the whole design process, though it is time taking, but if people believe it has a value, they let you go and explore. They let you be very creative, and that is what we as designers really need, which then leads us to create best experiences, right? So only when you create best experiences, you're making everyone happy, and that is what we want to do. And by doing all of this, we would also be able to facilitate change. This is one of the key components of why I believe influencing is very important. All of these together sort of gives you an idea of how you will end up solving the problem, right? So in a nutshell, influencing is important because at the end of the day, you want to solve problems to create better solutions. But the key points during this process is who to influence, and people who are at the decision making level, right? So influencing them becomes really important. Who in change help you with the change management processes or setting up new practices to help you reach there. Now, talking about people, right? Understanding people is really, really tough, right? People say something, but they might be actually doing something else. So, as designers, I think these are 2 important things that we need to focus on. One is understanding the user or understanding person, and understanding the human behavior, right? So, why do they behave in a specific way, right? In front of you, when you're watching them, they're doing something else, but when you're not, they're doing something else. So it becomes very important for us to understand why humans behave in a specific way. And I think these 2 are very critical for us to create influence. I also know few of my colleagues who have read psychology of human, so that I think that really helps you enable the experience because you really understand the psychology behind why people do specific stuffs. Well, now we'll move on to the how part. So how can we start influencing? So first I'm going to talk about the process, right? So these 4 boxes that you're seeing, I think all of us will be really aware of this process, right? So influencing can happen at any of these processes, starting from your discover phase to define, to design and deliver. Now, let's talk about the discover phase. Now, during the discovery phase, I think this is one of the key places. If in your organization you're lucky enough to be part of the discovery phase, you probably would have a better advantage of being able to influence the decision makers, right? More often, what happens is whenever I'm called into a discovery phase, what I do is, I try to take a backseat approach and try to be like a fly on the wall. I try to observe people around me. Especially listening and observation skills are something I tend to use more frequently here, because that gives you some insights that probably you won't get when you're interviewing them one-on-one, right? Now, these insights are very, very important. That will help you at a later point. And then after you're done with the discovery, this is where you go and define the problem, right? I think this is the most important place where I believe we as designers should be influencing, because most often what happens is you're handed over a problem statement, sometimes even the user persona, right? But what we should be doing is, questioning why that is a problem. How did we know that's a problem? And what is the pain point? For who is that the pain point? So trying to just probe more around the problem areas, defining and redefining the problem is one of the critical areas where I think we as designers should be more involved in that process. And once we do that, I think we will be addressing the right problem and also building a solution for the right problem. What we also do is, we would end up either redefining the problem or validating if the problem is right or wrong. And in the way, you also influence the decision making to some extent. Design phase is something that we all know. So we receive all the problem statement, and then we are asked to design. So what we do is we go and we start wireframing, brainstorming, doing some initial sketches, and then coming up with the final high fidelity mockups. And this is where I believe we can create an impact. I'm going to talk about this sometime when I'm talking about the layers of influence. But this is an area where I think if you influence, you can bring in a very shared common understanding, something that is very, very critical at a team level and also in a cross team level. The final part is deliver. So everything is done, and then things are developed. It's going to be shipped to the users, and this is where I believe as designers we must be doing lots of user testing, because the insights that we do from user testing would validate the problem statement, would also validate if the solution worked for you or not. It might also give you some data points. For example, how many clicks were there before you did the design and how many clicks are it now, right, after the new design implementation. So all of these data points you can take back and showcase, to the people at the leadership team, and also, and also sort of portray the value that design has delivered throughout this process. So all of these phases, I believe we can start influencing no matter at what level you are as a designer, whether you are a newbie or whether you are in an experienced role, whatever the status. I believe we could start influencing from the process right away. Now, talking about layers of influence. So the first layer I'm going to talk about is at an individual level. Now, when I started my career as a designer, it was a small startup at that point, and I was designing something, and I had one developer with whom I was closely working with. The usual process is you design and then you share the design to the developer, and then the developer would sort of just build it out. But luckily for me, this developer used to ask lots of questions, which made me share all the user research that I had, share the empathy for the user, and in the process, what I did was I was educating this person about the design process, and then he also understood there is a value behind why we design specific way. Knowingly or unknowingly, I was actually influencing that individual. Now, if you're operating at a team level, so mostly I assume you have a mix of developers. You would be having a product owner, a QA, a BA, and maybe a tech lead, and of course your clients or your stakeholders. This is where I think the process that we follow should be followed, but making sure that you're able to share back on whatever you're doing during the design process is very key. And one of the key process is again sharing the user research outcomes. Now, once you do that, people will be aware of the problem that we're trying to solve and the users for whom we are trying to solve the problem. And then during the design phase where we collaborate, I think it becomes important for us to collaborate with all of the team members, right? Irrespective of the roles or experience. So what I do generally during the design phase is, I involve my team of developers. I call them to a room, and then we pick a problem statement. I give them an hour, divide them into groups, and ask them to come up with ideas or solutions to the problem. Now, why I do that is because I really want them to understand the problem that we are trying to solve, and also understand the user for whom we are trying to solve the problem, right? And once we do it, you'll be amazed at the ideas that the developers in the team would come up with. Of course, one of the most important component when you try to do collaborative sketching with people with cross-cutting roles is to make sure that you remove all the constraints, right? Whether it's time constraint, whether it's tech constraints, whether it's cost constraint, whatever the case is, remove all the constraints and let them just design whatever way they want to. You'll be amazed with the ideas that come through. But the baseline is you have actually created a common understanding about the problem and about the user. And in this process, you are probably influencing the decision making also about the product. The third is the leadership level. Now, this is probably little. It probably involves more effort from your side, because it it means you need to think about the holistic picture, right? It's not only thinking about one product. It means what happens before a user interacts with the product and after the product, and what all happens in the backstage. So I usually use tools like service design and customer journey mapping. So what I try to do is I try to gather as much information as possible from different set of peoples, from the tech team, from the developers, from the product owners, from the clients themselves, and trying to build this holistic picture of the service design map about the journey. And what it brings is, one is the visibility to the leadership team, and two, you can also clearly highlight the gaps or the pain points across the process. And once you do that, you can actually share very compelling stories with some very strong data points. Again, it could mean that there were so many dropouts, and what is the reason for the dropouts? It might not be related to the user interface. It could probably be a tech problem, for example. So uncovering all of these problems would be really insightful to the leadership team. And based on that, stuffs like how might we, you can start building the questions, prioritize them, and build strategy that aligns with the business value. So once you do this, you will be able to influence the leadership team. And once you establish influence, I think going upwards might be a little easier, because you can establish design as a key process because you're already influenced the leadership team. You could also build bigger design teams, and also make sure we have the right capabilities and right mix in the team. Also, establishing design principles and guidelines becomes one of the key areas for at an organization level. So all of these layers sort of help you reach there and make change. Uh, the third important point is, okay, all of this is fine. So how do I identify the influencer, right? So influencer is someone who is able to influence a group of people, either because of the authority they have or because of the trust that others have in them, right? So it becomes very important that you identify who you want to influence, and once you identify who that person is, there are some from my experiences, there are some key personal traits that I felt was really beneficial for me. The first one is, you should be building trust with this influencer. And how do you do that? Is being really genuine. When people believe that you are genuinely interested in solving a problem for them, right? And if you're being very honest and open about situations or about your opinions and ideas, you start gaining their trust. Again, trust is something you build over a period of time. It doesn't happen in a jiffy, right? So it takes time and effort, but you really need to be honest and genuine. You cannot fake that, right? Once you establish the trust, then I believe the magic happens. So there is the circle of trust, and you have now influenced a person. Now, this influencer could be a very strong influencer within your company, within your team, or within your organization, who then have the power to influence others. Even if you don't have the means of influencing them, the influencer will do it for you. The job is done, right? So I believe trust is one of the key factors that we should really try to establish between the influencer. And I was able to do that with in my current organization, where we were closely working with the marketing and other folks, and we were building a CMS. And before that, there was one more system that they were used to for publishing the web pages, but it involves some developer tasks and stuff like that. So the one that we created was very quick to publish, and once we were able to influence this person that CMS is the way for you to publish your pages very quickly and go live, uh, they really believed in it, and then we had more users who wanted access to that CMS to build pages. So this was one of my personal experiences of how I believe being genuine and being honest and open really helps you build that trust. So we as designers, what should we do, right? I believe we should not only play the designer role, but I think we should be leveling up. We should be stepping up, and probably build all the additional capabilities and skill sets that we need to influence people. I think this is really key for us given the current scenario, and I believe we can definitely do that well as a designer. I'm going to leave you with two questions that probably could be thought provoking. This is something that I heard from a talk from Kim Goodwin, someone I follow. Have you influenced the way someone thinks about a problem? And have you helped them look at it from a different angle? I leave you with these thoughts. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kavita. It was really a great talk, and thank you for sharing the tips and some ideas in terms of how one could use these some of these ideas in terms of like influencing, inspiring, and even learning from others or helping others learn from your thoughts. So I'll just look for questions parallelly. So one question before I jump to the question from audience, one question that I had on my mind was, uh, how do you differentiate one is not influencing and one is influencing or having an authority of or putting up an authority instead of influencing? How could you differentiate between that this is like an influence versus this is an authority given to me, which looks like an influence though?
Right. So sometimes often what happens is people at the leadership level, they would be people of both categories, right? Someone who's very authoritative, just like you said. You follow them because you're being asked to follow. But honestly, if you ask me, the followers will just reduce over a period of time. But when you build that impact, when you create that impact with the person, right? When you build that trust in the relationship, you really need not ask them to follow you. They will definitely start following you on their own because they believe in what you're doing. They trust you in what you're doing, and they think you will be taking the right decision. So that is what I believe a true influencer would be.
Yeah, so building the trust is important over the journey, like how you create a positive influence and not become more like a negative influencer. That's clearly true. So moving on, thank you for giving this talk. So moving on, I will also check the question. So we have one question here on the comment section. So the question is coming from Jyotsna. Can you share a specific event where you struggled to influence and how you overcame it?
Right. So I can definitely share a scenario where this happened. Right. So this specific use case that I was talking about us building a CMS. Right. I think we really struggled initially to influence people to move away from what they're using. Right. So people really resist change. Right. Change management is the most difficult bit at the leadership level. But it takes lots of time, energy, and effort to do that, right? And I think one of the key areas where I was able to do that is again showing them the value of why you should be changing from A to B, right? Showing them the impact that it creates, and also the number of users who get impacted by that, the value it generates for most of them. I think when you do that, definitely people will buy into that idea. And data is one key areas where you really need to showcase the data to let people believe you and eventually get influenced by you.
Thank you, Kavita, for the answer. I hope this answers Jyotsna's question well. So I have another question that is coming from our another audience. So that's Sharon. He's asking, how do you influence people in a new workplace during remote working,
Yeah,
mainly from different teams and departments? Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
so this is really challenging one.
Yeah.
I belong to a team which is completely remote.
Mhm.
So I'm part of the digital team, the platform team, and we have teams spread across different regions and different time zones. It becomes very tough to sort of talk to people from Brazil and from China and from India, and you have all of this mix. What we try to do is we try to allocate in a specific time. Of course, it might be too early or too late for few folks, which is okay.
Mhm.
But what we try to do is we try some specific time in a week, wherein we take a problem and we try to address that problem. And when we do that, right, when they think that you're taking the time for them, trying to address few issues that they might be facing otherwise, and again highlighting the ways you could potentially do that, I think that has helped me. I don't know if I've done a great job there, but I think that's something that I started trying of late.
That's very true, because also with the technology and everything is virtual, you must have seen like all the glitches that's happening. You need to put up your hand and influence on a positive way and not charging on someone with some kind of thoughts suddenly.
Yeah.
So you
Just
make
one point,
sure.
Vandana. I believe, making everything visible is very key
Yeah.
in a remote place, right? please don't talk in the Zoom call or wherever. Avoid talking, but show as much as you can, because that really creates an impact. Even if it's a word that you want to highlight, put the word on mural or wherever, and then talk about it. So bringing that visibility is very key.
True, the transparency is important, and how you communicate, where you communicate, those ethics are like really important currently, especially in the virtual world, because you're not seeing the person, you're only hearing them sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for sharing this talk. It was really great to hear the different perspectives of how influencing matters, and how it's important for us to build up this ethic in this virtual world. Thank you for coming here, and it's an honor to be having you as part of the Women in Design Leadership speaker. Thank you, Kavita.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Moving on, for our next speaker, we have Pranava Tandra. So she is going to be joining us from India. Pranava Tandra has been working in Microsoft. So she is a product designer with 4 years of experience. She has been a team player, designed for several products within M365 ecosystems such as Kaizala, Workplace, Analytics, Viva, and Excel. Currently, she is building search experiences for Microsoft Teams. So welcome, Pranava.
Hi, Vandana.
Hi.
Pleasure being here. Yeah.
Same here. So she would be talking about, she would be sharing with us some few stories and learnings about her journey, and about Triad collaboration and networking from designer's point of view. Over to you, Pranava.
That's right. Thanks, Vandana. I'm just going to share my screen.
Okay.
Right. So, hello, everyone. Hello to everyone who've joined this session across different time zones. Today, I will be sharing few stories and learnings from my experience as a designer. As an introduction, I'm going to share anecdotes about how I benefited from networking, and hope that forms a good segue to tell you more stories about what it means to design experiences as a triad. So let's go. So networking, some people like it, some people dread it, but I can say with some confidence that most of us are ambivalent about networking. I mean, we know we should do it for our professional success, and that's why a lot of introverts may find it taxing. But I truly believe networking helps us learn, share, and identify new interests. And I'm here to share a few anecdotes about how life-changing networking has been for me. So first off, I'm Pranava. I'm a designer at Microsoft. And like Vandana mentioned, I'm currently building such experiences for teams. And so my first anecdote is, so this was the year 2016. As a student, I was very intrigued about design conferences. Plus, I was also wanting a good job once I graduated. And to top it off, I was also the placement coordinator for my class. So I would hunt down for events and conferences and try to negotiate a way to volunteer at some of these design conferences along with my batchmates. And I would go ahead and audaciously network with people. So I met some of the most interesting people in these conferences, and UX India being one of them. So although I was academically smart, it was during this time attending these conferences, I learned that I needed certain knowledge and skills to be hired. Being introverted, the drive to learn helped me network. Soon, I think I had a long list of contacts and email IDs, and I would relentlessly email people I met during the conference, requesting them for an interview. It didn't work initially, but it finally worked, and I did get a call back from a company. They decided to interview me, and the rest is history. So that takes me to my second anecdote. Now I've joined a company and I have a great team and a great manager who's interested in honing my skills and growing my career. But I was this shy person who only spoke to some people, and I was extremely selective about who heard my opinions. This was holding me back. One day, I remember in my one-on-one session with my manager, he asked me what was stopping me from being my authentic self at work. He had noticed this pattern and he was like, why are you not being yourself? That question, that was probably the turning point, I guess, that made me think a lot, because I was naturally inclined towards helping people, leading projects, even back in college, and loved working together. But I wasn't doing half the things I like doing at work because of fear of judgment and also fear of failure. And it was during this time I understood I need to identify common interests with people and maybe forge deeper connections, because that would help me grow as a leader. It was important to work together on high stakes projects and activities rather than just have casual conversations. This understanding helped me become more confident and I felt at ease. And as of now, I have effortlessly partnered with several people inside and outside my organization, and have been able to participate or conduct more than 30 workshops, design teardowns, and talks. So, yeah, moving forward to my third anecdote. So, there was this one time I met this amazing person at the conference and I was excited to talk to them. I ended up asking a lot of questions. They were very patient with me and answered all my questions. But it made me think, say someone walked up to me and asked these questions, would I be as patient or knowledgeable? It made me think a lot, that once you start networking with people, you also start wondering, what is that you have? What is that you can offer to the community you're interacting with? Networking is surely not a one-way street. People would want to hear your thoughts, ideas, and know about your expertise. And this is almost like an intrinsic motivation to learn more so you can share more. So now each time I learn something new, I start delving deeper into the subject, and enough so I can share what I learn and give back to the community. To sum it up, you'll have the confidence to share or network effortlessly when you have ample knowledge or the curiosity to learn more. So with these tiny anecdotes at the beginning, let me dive deeper into my core topic here, which is designing experiences as a triad. All right, let's go. As product people, across most tech companies today, we emphasize building on each other's work and almost have a collaborative environment that makes everyone function at ease, ship products with great quality, and all stakeholders on the product team feel a strong sense of ownership, be it a PM, a designer, or a developer. Regular product teams or feature crews or triads consist of program managers, designers, researchers, and developers. So today I'm going to tell you 3 stories from my 3 years of experience at Microsoft. So let me start with my first story. This was sometime around 2018 when I had just started as a designer. I was quite unaware of how triads function, and as newbies, we always learn on our jobs, right? So my first month here, a PM sent me a spec and asked me to make high fidelity designs of their PM art. Firstly, I kept questioning why I had to make high fidelity mocks of mocks that were already present. And more importantly, I wasn't convinced of the solution because I lack context. I was afraid to suggest changes. And each time I did muster some courage to suggest a change, he always seemed to have an answer about why his approach was better. I hated to admit it, but there was no trust in this relationship to begin with. So I did exactly what I was asked to do, and we shipped the designs just to escape conflict. A year passed, I eased into my job, and so in 2019, a lot of us were neck deep into some visioning work and would conduct several brainstorming sessions together as a team. It was during this time, a deck I had casually sent to my manager as a design proposal got picked up as an important item to do and was socialized amongst other PMs and engineering leads. Soon, a PM started working together on the deck with me. So there was no one-pager to begin with. The deck became the spec. And soon it gained reasonable traction and momentum. Several PMs were dropping comments, And soon this concept deck was broken down into 16 features, and 16 feature crews were working on it. It was during this time I learned how, when PM says KPIs, we must be thinking about user value. And when they say features, we need to think about use cases and user journeys. The translation became simpler, and I was able to provide my insights on planning, feature prioritization, product roadmap, and documentation. I loved how this PM emphasized on shared ownership. And at the core, I think we just trusted each other. While immediate results were great for both the instances, the long-term effects of the second approach was more beneficial to the Triad ICs. By ICs, I mean individual contributors. So it brought in a sense, a very strong sense of ownership for all the individual contributors involved. We all learned from each other, and it improved the culture of the team. And with that, let me slip into my second story. So what do designers do during hackathons? Create UI, create fancy decks, create videos, right? But no, I've actually met developers who can make better videos. So here's the second story, right? This was Hackathon 2019, back at my workplace. And I was the sole member of my hackathon team. And I thought I created this fantastic concept and never even bothered to seek feedback. Or maybe I was too shy to present it to people, right? So I was under the impression that it was an award-winning concept until in the hackathon jury, I couldn't answer any basic question about the backend abilities or how this is useful for business. I was shown the door. So it occurred to me then that we as designers are usually bubbling with a lot of ideas, and we feel the need to create amazing proof of concepts all by ourselves because we feel the product should be about user needs. And we end up downplaying the value of the expertise PMs and engineering bring in with respect to business and technical needs, right? So after that incident in 2020, I guess, I had realized that it was not so much about the ideas, but interesting people in interesting product spaces to collaborate with. I went looking for people and jumped into a product space I had least idea about. And I became a contributor in that hackathon team. And as a team, we equally contributed to the brainstorming, ideation, feature analysis, detailed design mocks, engineering prototype, and the pitch, which were, I mean, half of these things were missing from the last time, right? And this time we also had a video, and all of this was done in just 3 days. And we went on to present this, and it worked. The jury asked a lot of questions, and this time I wasn't alone. I had team members taking my back, and we managed to win the hackathon. And that was not all. It is also being picked up now as an important feature in Teams. So this taught me a lot about how we can leverage other strengths and how it improves our perspectives. I also learned that working is not just about hackathons and product pitches. I learned that engineers are the most important parts of the triads that make all our product dreams come true. And that takes me to my third story. So again, back in 2018, the time when I got all my learning, basically, there was this developer who I used to sit next to, and we were part of the feature crew of the same triad. I was new, and I had the habit of mailing him red lines for the project I was working on. And this piece I was working on, it kept changing. So I would spend time documenting this change and mail him every single time something changed. By something, I mean the UI, right? All of this despite sitting right next to each other. Like I would shoot emails like, can you please move this icon by 2 pixels? Regards, Pranava. And this was like the pre-pandemic era. So during the course of time, I felt we were both very unproductive. And I think we just ended up delaying the shipping cycle by a fortnight. We were both frustrated with each other and with ourselves. Time went by. And in 2019, after a year's experience of working in the team, and thankfully certain processes in the team had also changed, Conversations with peers became easier, and I had the opportunity to work with the same dev again. And this time, maybe because of the tools we were using, and maybe it was that we were just communicating outside emails. We would walk up to each other's desk, although he moved to another wing in the building, to discuss designs, red lines, and things became easier. Then there came a time when we had to ship a feature in 2 days. And now that the dev and I had become good friends, he asked me if I could code the JSONs that needed to go into the feature, and gave me the confidence that this was a very easy task to do. And mind you, I had never coded before. So the developer was patient enough to teach me, and we sat overnight, coded JSONs together, and shipped it on time. So one of the best things that happened to me over the last 3 years of collaborating with developers is that I learned how to design for scale, right? So as designers, we tend to stay away from developers and code. We feel our job ends at handoffs. But there was great joy in being able to contribute and craft the product experience together. There is. It brought a lot of clarity and quality as I understood constraints better. So here are like my top 3 learnings for the 3 stories I narrated. Learn everything you can and teach everything you know. Please don't stick to your job roles, go beyond, and pure camaraderie literally makes products shine. To sum it up, making products is almost like a team sport, right? And great triads make great products. Thank you. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Pranava. Thank you for sharing all the stories and the learnings across your journey at Microsoft. I'm sure like many, all the young designers might have like got a lot of insights from here in terms of how you should work around, move up and beyond your current role and journey to like learn something new and something better. So I have one question for you. So I know you mentioned that across the journey, while working with them, you had a chance to like talk to them, be on one-on-one, and then learn from them. But now, considering current scenarios, have you got a chance to work with new developers, and how did you manage building that trust with them across this journey?
Right. So this has been a challenge, by the way. Like I joined my current team remotely, by the way. Like I just transitioned into a new team a few months ago. And for the first few weeks, I did find this to be like a real struggle. And to be honest, I'm like this social person at work, but I did struggle with it. And then what I did was I started setting up one-on-ones with all these developers and introducing myself, what I do here, and how my journey has been, but not in like a talk way. It's not just knowledge sharing. It's mostly like being sharing those candid moments where I have failed, where I've not been able to understand things, and sharing moments of basically just being vulnerable, right? That helps a lot. And I also try to ask them questions about what interests them, why, and try to form like a personal bond with them. Maybe even communicate outside English. Hindi helps a lot, like if you're working with someone who's like from your same place, or you can make all these connections, right? So I try to be open, I try to be vulnerable, I try to let them know how I work, understand how they work, and that instantly forms a bond. So the person feels like, okay, I can trust this person is sharing so much with me. So I'm all for oversharing sometimes. So yeah.
True. During like current scenario, because we just talk virtually, like only on that particular topic, only on that intent, it's very important to talk outside the topic and like learn about how others are dealing with things, what's going on in their life, so that you can also build trust and like transparency and like better relationships and allies. That's very true. So we have one question from our audience. One of our audience, Sharon, He is asking, we always say developers should be part of the design process. Great to know vice versa. It's important too. So how do you manage these developers? I know you answered some of them, but how do you manage them, having them in the part of the design process?
So, first of all, I don't manage it alone. There are 3 people in the room. The PM is always there. And we sort of draw a vision about what needs to go out immediately, why it is important, and if it can be achieved in a certain time frame, right? That really helps out in eliminating a lot of ambiguity. And having 3 people in the room really solves for, timelines, and like I said, getting rid of any ambiguity and making sure that we're all aligned on the same product vision. So there have been times when the developers come back to me and say, but why did you even design it this way? This doesn't make sense. But I always have data from my user testing or research to prove that, this is how this works, and maybe this should probably be the right way to design it. And if they do have a better idea that this can be approached, we're all ears, because everybody needs to design the product. Crafting the product needs to be a collaborative experience out and out. That's what I believe.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having that question answered. Okay, so thank you for having here. It's an honor to have you here as part of Women in Design Leadership Series as a speaker. We are really happy to hear from you, and then I hope the audience can take a lot of insights from here. Thank you, Pranava.
Thanks, Vandana. It was a pleasure being here again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you a student wanting to explore the world of UX? We got just the thing for you. At UMO Design School, you will be introduced to a strong curriculum designed by the best design mentors around the world. Pick your course today and start exploring the world of UX.
Welcome back. That was really an interesting video about the design school. So moving on, we would be having a panel discussion. Unfortunately, one of our speakers couldn't attend today, so we would be moving directly to our panel discussion for our second half of the session. So today we have an amazing panel from our Women in Leadership community, and they will be sharing some of the high-level themes and ideas about women leadership, their career journey, and some of the women empowerment related topics that they had, I would say, in their organization, how they dealt with it. So I would like to invite our 3 panelists. So our first panelist is Neelam. Neelam is a design lead at CureFit India. She enjoys the thrill of building products from ground up and having been part of startups like Housing.com, CureFit from their early stages. She's an alumni of NID, and she loves working with a driven set of thinkers and mentoring younger folks. Welcome, Neelam.
Hi, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
You're welcome. So next speaker we have is Shahi. Shahi is currently working as a product design lead at Flipkart. She's building unique user engagement and retention experiences for the Indian e-commerce scape. She comes from a multidisciplinary design background, which has helped extend her career in design knowledge, and gain new perspectives. Welcome, Shahi.
Thanks for having me, Vandana.
Welcome. And our third speaker, who is joining us from United Kingdom, she's Shay, Global Head of Studio Global Head of Studio TCS. Shay has over 20 years of experience working at a global level, ensuring that humans are put at center of experiences and services. She has worked with every industry from finance, government, retail, utilities, and automotive to define experience that create new opportunities for customers to engage and transform business. Welcome, Shay.
Hi, hello. Yeah, I know my job title in my organisation is really, really long. It's a mouthful.
That is really great to have you here. Thank you to all the panelists, and we welcome you to the panel discussion. So before we start, we have, I'll just share a quick format of how we would be running this. So I'll take a quick moment to like introduce some of the housekeeping tips for the audience, and then we will move on to the questions. So I'll be asking some common questions across to all of you all. There will be something specific that we would be asking. So like feel free to jump in and answer them. And maybe if possible, we can just like flow through some of the order for specific common questions so that like everybody gets chance to answer it. And like maybe you can have 2 minutes to answer some of these questions so that we also manage time and cover as much as questions as possible. Okay, so some housekeeping tips and also some of the reminders for audience that please feel free to add your comments or questions in the comment section on the right side of the panel. We will try to address as much of questions as possible during the panel discussion. If some of them are not answered, feel free to like send us a mail and then we can follow up with answers from some of our panelists. Sounds good? Okay. Great. Moving on. So, like for our first question, so this is more like a general question for all of you, which I would like to get your thoughts on. So, we frequently hear about imposter syndrome, and have you ever felt it? And if so, how did you combat over it? So maybe I'll ask Neelam to answer. Start with.
I think imposter syndrome is very, very common. I think as designers, as a community, we are people who believe in iterating again and again. We like to go back to our solutions. We like to see what we did not do well. So every time we feel that, oh, I could have done this better, I could have done that better. It's also because, I have done this and I have not seen this somewhere else, right? So it's also the fear of where.
Sorry, Neelam, you went on mute for some time, I guess.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Sorry.
Yeah. So I was saying that, it's also the fear of trying something new. At times you don't have the confidence to do so. I think I have felt it took me a long time to have confidence in the design decisions that I am making. It took me a while to realize that, I can put forth an opinion and say that, this is what I understand about my user and this is what I think the design is. I used to always shy away and, think that, if the product manager is saying something, maybe he's right, maybe he's come from, a world of data, or he's looked at some sort of numbers and that's why he's saying something. I think as designers, we should learn to embrace that part, also learn the number game, learn data, learn where the monies are coming from, and have confidence in putting your ideas forth. It takes a while, to learn all of those things. But you are a creative person. If people need to understand what you're saying, you also need to speak their language. So, it's okay to have that imposter syndrome. I think it pushes you to do better. But it's also important to learn what others understand as well.
That's very true. Over to you, Shahi. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I quite agree with Neelam. The fact that certain thoughts, something like I cannot fail in the job that has been given to me, or tend to kind of downplay my success or any kind of achievement. That is something I've previously encountered, and it's just about, I think, being kind to yourself, celebrate your smallest wins as well. Try to also establish like a trust circle, finding your tribe with whom you can share your thoughts. They can support you in your lowest times, but also be there with you when you're celebrating your success, and give you that support that you very much need at every point. So also, I just feel that journaling your thoughts, what's going well, what is not, is also something of a helpful tool, maybe to, when you're having these type of challenging thoughts, that helps, I think. And also trying to look at the positive side of things, like maybe you're a perfectionist in your area and you deeply care about your work. So I guess continue giving your best self and also in turn be easy on yourself. So yeah, that's maybe the way to deal with it.
Thank you. Shay, over to you. Any thoughts? Like based on your experience, what would you like to share?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I, like everyone, have imposter syndrome. Like this morning, probably it was like, oh my God, they're going to ask me something on like Figma in detail and I won't know. So like I have those panics all the time. But like the other ladies, it's trying to think about, I suppose, what I do is trying to be kind to myself and then go, like I've got two options. I can either do nothing and that's fine, but I'm never going to grow and progress, or I suppose I can like jump in with both feet and like have a go and always try and tell myself like, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Someone's not going to agree with me. Well, that's kind of okay. Somebody's might go, oh, she doesn't know a lot. Well, probably that doesn't happen that often because, you know, as designers, we do a lot of research, so we do know our stuff. And then if I'm really feeling doubtful, I try and think that I need to be maybe a role model for my team as well, because if I like don't do anything and I don't go in the room and share my idea and opinion, then I'm not doing justice to fellow designers. I'm not demonstrating to my team that we deserve a place in the room and at the table. So if I think I kind of externalize it and go, it's not about me, I'm doing it for other people, and then that kind of makes it easier for me to go, well, I've got to do the best by my team who have worked really hard on this. So that's what I kind of keep in mind. But I'm like, it happens all the time, and it's just something that I work hard at and work on all the time, really.
That's very true, because based on like the current situation, it's very important for us to come out and self-realize, like in terms of how we can like improvise ourselves. Like otherwise, like we would never be able to learn and come out of that particular vacuum that we have. So like that's I agree to all your thoughts in terms of like how one should really like push from our like current backgrounds and like move ahead and then try to learn how I can like improvise. I know like because currently you don't even see people face to face, so it's kind of very difficult, but we need to push ourselves as more and more. Thank you so much for that answer. So moving on, like this gives me a good thought about like asking the second question. So that's like, what are the gender specific challenges or stereotypes or any barriers that you have overcome over this career journey of yours? And do you experience any resistance when you're leading a group of like men, or like if you have a team who is also involved with both men and women, but some of them working with men, and like how do you come up with those challenges? Like how do you come across or like beat those challenges and come up? So maybe Shay, you can start.
Yeah. I was waiting. No, definitely. I've had loads, like probably like too many really challenges in terms of, I suppose, both at a design level, like a lot of working in tech, and I'm there to beautify your deck or sort out your PowerPoint, and it's like, that's not my job. So I definitely kind of a lot of stereotypes of there to, you know, be there to make things beautiful while the serious development work happens. That happens a lot. And then also kind of a lot of things around, you know, being a woman. I'm like more often than not, like the only woman in a room. And so there's, across my career, there's been really explicit things, like unfortunately from women as well. I wouldn't say it's just men, like women telling me when I had kids that now I wouldn't be as committed, like my career's kind of over, may as well give up now kind of thing, to those more implicit things where if it's me and one of my team members who's a gentleman in the room, but the client speaks to him and not me, I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm the one making the decisions here. So that happens, has happened a lot. I suppose early in my career, I would not say anything and then leave the room and beat myself up and feel like a bit bad about myself type of thing. Nowadays, I try and do it in in an authentic and genuine way, but kind of say, hang on a minute, you can direct that at me, or try and meet those challenges. I would say nowadays it's more clients that I face that with than my actual team, maybe because I've got like I said before, a really long job title in TCS. People listen to me a bit, but I probably say it behind my back and not to my face so much. They do what I say. But I think it's like hard, and it happens more than it should, and it's like kind of the imposter syndrome type thing. It's a muscle you need to exercise in terms of being assertive, but in a way that's not. I don't like to be assertive and mimic how a man would do it, but be assertive in a way that's how I feel comfortable. But again, like everything, it's just practice getting it wrong a lot as well as getting it right.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Any thoughts, Shahi?
So fortunately, the companies I have worked with have always had this great equality and inclusiveness culture. Also, I am kind of proud to be part of a family with accomplished women. My mother is a chief engineer. My mother-in-law is a doctor. So I have always had these strong role models whom I look up to, both at home and at workplace. And I've learned from them. And it's also a great thing that we are talking about this openly, and there's so much transparency around this topic, so much conversation happening on gender biases, stereotypes, because this is what we need to change attitude of people, making this a norm of having equality across. And I'm seeing positive changes across. Companies are more open to having such cultures. One thing I agree to share is that the one thing we can definitely do is have our voices heard, prove our value. Actions do speak louder than word, and people around you would recognize you for your talent, and you don't have to fight for it or demand it. You just have to work and prove it with your work.
True. Being yourself and being transparent and proving continuously is really important. Both Shay and you said about that. Moving to you, Neelam, you have any thoughts on this?
So I completely agree with Shahi. I think I've been part of organizations where I haven't really have to face that kind of bias when it comes to gender. I think your work, your accountability sort of speaks for itself. And I think that matters the most over whether you're a woman or a man. Although I think when in the beginning, when I was just starting out, I think I just finished my internship and I was looking for jobs. I did have a few of these HR culture fit rounds, right, where all your interviews have gone by and the HR asks you that, oh, why are you moving to Bangalore? Is it because you're getting married? Or, what do you plan? What are your plans for the future? And where does your family stay? I'm not sure if these questions are asked to men as well, whether they're getting married and is that why they're moving, or if they're not married, are they planning to get married and move away? So yeah, I think I've faced this in the past, but I think recently I don't see this happening. Even while we hire now, I don't think it's a point of consideration whether we are hiring a woman or a man for a role. It's about what their capabilities are, how well they can voice their opinion, how well they can influence people. I think how well they approach problems. I think those things are more important rather than what their life has been, or whether they are women, whether they are married, unmarried. I don't think that matters anymore, which is a great thing to see.
That's very true, because ideally your capability and your work talks more than what kind of person you are. I would say that is really important in the current work culture. So, like, also following up with what Shay said earlier, I would like to ask you another question. Like, considering your current position of where you were and from where you were, where you are currently as a global head, I would like to ask you, how did you prove yourself in the company that you have been having these leadership skills to move your career forward? If the organization has the bias from the top, such as CEOs, and how did you work with the upper VPs and CEOs to promote an equal employment opportunities in the organization, or manage cultural differences across, if you had like different kinds of leaders from different kinds of backgrounds and countries?
Yeah. So I suppose like I'm really lucky, like in TCS, I'm really lucky in the sense that I don't experience a lot of the biases I was speaking about before when I first started my career. I think the agency environment that I was at before TCS was is in London is super aggressive. It's very male. It's very like that. TCS has been different. So in that sense, the conversations have been different in being able to kind of people being open to hear me, to like allow me to advocate for the team more effectively. I would say, I suppose one thing I would say that I learned that's probably got me to having some, global head role and all of that, is that when I very first started my career, one of like my early managers, who is one of the best people ever and still is, he told me that it was going to be harder for me. It was kind of a hard thing to hear at the time, but it's like, it's going to be harder. It's technology. I was working in government. It's very male dominated. You're going to have a rougher time with it, and you can be like apologetic about it, or you can kind of embrace it and use it to your advantage. And also, don't be shy because there's a gentleman who's louder and talking about all of his accomplishments, not to like share it. You don't need to be arrogant and boastful and have those kinds of behaviors, but you can make sure that you do the hard work, but you also let people know that you've done the hard work as well. And I think I kind of took that advice really to heart, and during my career I've like tried to do that, and then encourage particularly the women starting out in the team to do that as well. It's like, claim the good work that you've done, like advocate for it, share it, let people know the contribution you're making. Don't let somebody else always be the person to answer the questions for the team. Like, you can also do it. And I think that has helped my career, and for who are starting out in the team, it's helping them as well have that visibility in the organization, so they're top of mind. In a huge organization like TCS, where there's like 500,000 people, you need to kind of like share your opinion, because then you're the person that is picked for the project if somebody knows you're there. So it's just about encouraging, like, sharing their experiences. So I think that's one of the things that I think that like women particularly starting out don't always feel confident in doing, and that we try and encourage. And I think that's across cultures. I don't think that's a Western or an Indian thing. It's just we're always a little bit like, I want to be likable, I don't want to speak up. So that's what I just try and encourage.
That's very true. Like putting up your point, claiming it, like, and like also encouraging yourself always towards be like on a positive side, being honest, and like and also like putting up your point like correctly on a, like, even if it's a polite manner, even if the others in the room are like not polite to you, like always being polite, like someday or the other like puts up you on the top of the whole team or a group. Thank you, Shay, for answering that question. So the next question I would like to ask Neelam, what do you think? Like how did you, or what did you do to manage conflicts in your organization based on like some of the thoughts you had shared earlier? And when someone like a developer or a PO doesn't agree with your product directions, how did you put up your point forward there and like try to like help them understand what is the right direction.
Yeah. So I think it's a two-way street. We also heard Pranava some time back that, how we involve POs and developers in our process and vice versa. So if they say something and they expect us to say mock it up or create a design, we also ask for evidence, right? That why do you think so? Why do you think this product direction is correct? Or if I have an opinion, we always ask for evidence. So I think it's important that we back some of our opinions also with evidence, whether it's any kind of usability testing, whether it's any kind of research. A lot of organizations still undervalue research. They undervalue user research, and they don't understand the value of getting some of the users in the room and talking to them. A lot of these things are based on assumptions. So how do you convert those assumptions or hypotheses to insights or product directions? So it's important that you explain these things to your developers or your POs, that, or at least let me give it a try, let me speak to a few of them and get back to you. Maybe what you're thinking is right or maybe not. So don't be so confident without, talking or being in the user's shoes. I'm sure they do a lot of research themselves. But if you feel otherwise, I think you should also put your best foot forward and do whatever it takes to get them to believe. And whether it is even, trying out, even if it's like something in visual design, right, where you're trying to do something with motion design to create user delight and some developers don't agree. It's important to figure out a way that it works, whether you create a JSON file or you create an MP4, give it to them, see how it works, get some feedback on it, whether it's within the organization, outside it. So it's important to bring evidence, I feel, and that generally helps in solving conflicts, or at least making you the influencer in that scenario. So I think it's always good to do that and develop that practice as well.
True, and positive influence is really important.
Yeah.
Like we heard a lot today in a lot of other talks today that has been shared across our speakers. Also, like I would like to hear, Shahi, your thoughts. How did you deal with your subordinates who are like male colleagues, and how did you pursue people, like in terms of what do you want and deal with disagreements? What was your most important attribute as a negotiator or an influencer?
So mainly it's about basically seeing them as a partner who everybody is trying to solve for a user need or a business goal. So it's mainly about interacting. I mean, in the end, it's about how well you can put forth your point and try to make the room hear your logic or your reasoning, backing up with data, like Neelam mentioned, getting those user insights, like leveraging the user research as much as we can. It's basically mainly that in the end we are trying to solve a user problem.
Sure.
So also I would say trying to zoom out and zoom in, right? So it's also important to kind of be open to see others' point of view, others' perspective, so that we understand where they are coming from. Everybody's perspective is shaped by their past experience. So maybe they have something right. Maybe you can come to a middle ground and work something out. So yeah, maybe being open to having a healthy discussion around those disagreements.
Sure. Like I agree with all your points. Like having, I would say, like even if you cannot like have a one-on-one conversation, having a healthy conversation and side conversations out of your actual topic really helps build allies and better relationships. Even if it's like if it's a male or a female or whatever team you're dealing with. Thank you for answering that question, Neelam and Shahi. So moving on, like while I'll like also see what questions we have from our audience, I will like go ahead with one last question that I had for all of you. Was we hear a lot about women having it all, and what does this mean to you? Has this definition changed over the years? And what are some of the pieces of advice that you would like to share with our young aspiring women designers or leaders moving in the leadership journey or leadership ladder? Over to you, Shay.
Was that Shay? Sorry. What does, I think having it all probably has changed pre kids and after kids, really. Pre having children, I thought, yeah, I'm going to be this super woman who can do everything. I can have the career, I can have like perfect children, like go out still, like children arrive and like everything changes. And then I think what I've realized is I think you can probably still have it all. You can still have healthy relationships in work and do well at work, and like have have great relationships with your kids and family. But that doesn't, having it all doesn't necessarily mean doing it all. And I suppose that's the difference I've learned, is like I don't need to do everything like always. I don't have to always be in every meeting. Sometimes I have to balance things. Sometimes my husband does the school pickup, and actually what I've realized over time is that when I started off, I was trying to do everything, and over time I've realized he really wants to do that stuff, and I need to make space for him to do it as well. So I think that's the thing. It's like I still feel I'm having it all maybe, but I'm just not doing it all. And sometimes like forgiving myself for that. I think like women and mums put a lot of mum guilt. Like if I don't do every school pickup, if I'm not like doing every bit of homework with them, if somebody else does it, that I've somehow failed them. And it's like, they've got an amazing dad. He can do some of that as well. And actually it's really good for them to see that we can both be like the carer. In terms of like, I suppose, advice for people is probably what I've said before. It's just like, if you're going to be a leader, be your type of leader. I think maybe when I first started out, and when I see other women start out, they think they have to be, this stereotype of a leader that tends to have a lot of male qualities in there. I've been told numerous times that I'm maybe like too emotional, I'm a bit too open, and that I need to, as I've like moved up in my career, I need to not be sharing so much with my team. And I've like tried that, and it made me miserable. And I was just like, you know what, I can't hold all that information in. I'm like an open book. That's just my style. That's not everyone's style, but I like to do that and more. And in doing that, I feel like I'm more authentic, and I feel like I've been more successful because I'm not trying to be someone else. I'm just trying to be me. And sometimes that is during COVID, like being in tears with the team because it's really hard, and sometimes it's doing all of those things. And I don't think having that vulnerability in work has actually been a bad thing. So I'd say, like, if you're starting out, that you'll evolve over time, but like don't feel like you have to be anyone else other than yourself. Like your style of leadership is going to work for you and really resonate with some people.
That's very true, because balancing both like professional and personal during this time, because we are working from home, it's like really challenging, and how do we manage that is really important. Over to you, Shahi.
Right. So I completely agree with Shay. I mean, it's all, I mean, the word all in that phrase can mean different things to each one of us. And that's perfectly wonderful, right? Because, I mean, we should be defining our own journey. And let's not compare others, with others' success. It's about your journey, and it could be different from someone else's. So for me, if something is happiness, it can just be around say simple things, but it does not mean to mean that I should be working or maybe having kids or also being successful in my career. I mean, I can just have be content with two of those things. That's perfectly fine.
Sure. Over to you, Neelam.
I think I completely agree with Shahi that things can having it all can mean different for different people. Although I do see a lot of people in my own organization, like there are women who are fitness trainers, and so I mean they're leading fitness formats. They're working out. They have kids, and like Shwetambri, who leads some of our fitness formats at CureFit, she's had a child, and she's able to manage work. She's able to do her workouts. She's able to manage kids, and I think that's so cool. Some people are able to do it. Some people are made in a way that they're able to balance both the things. Some people may not be. And I think it's okay. And I think over time, when I have learned that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to try something and say that, okay, I really want to move towards this path in my career. I will give it a shot. I think I've missed some opportunities by thinking that, maybe this is not for me. Maybe, I should take time out for myself and I should not do this. But I think if I am interested in something, probably giving it a shot, making a mistake, and then deciding if this is for me or not for me, I think I won't have those regrets later. So I think as an advice, I would really encourage all the girls and boys out there that, give it a shot. I don't think there's any harm in trying to be what you want to or what you aspire to. If you can do it, great. If you can't, you learn from it at the most. It'll just be a good learning for you.
True, that's very true, because balance, even if you cannot be like a person who will do everything together, right? Like like you all said, you need to balance, and sometimes you need support from your family in terms of like when you can't do it. So that way, it's like you can like be open to borrow support and be transparent to your team what's happening and how you can manage things around. Thank you for all the thoughts and sharing some of the insights about some of the questions that we like, or some of the thoughts or the questions that we discussed today. So moving on, like I have one question in the audience section, so which I would like to ask. So just let me just. It was, maybe basically that was more like a comment. So Sharon says, it's really inspiring how amazing women are at multitasking, especially after the lockdown, where they had to manage domestic and work both. So he is sharing his thoughts in terms of like how he is like seeing this and hearing from us. So that's something for us to take away and be proud of.
I was just going to say that I think that like people have done amazing, but also people like some days have been really hard and it's really difficult. And I think sometimes like, well, everybody's like my team does amazing and does, overall, but sometimes it's okay to say like, this is a rubbish day. I'm not going to be as proactive or be able to produce as much. I think that's the one thing with COVID is everyone expects to be on all of the time. And over the year, I've kind of learned, and I've encouraged the team to say that some days it's just really hard. I've got lots of other, whether it's kids or not kids or like family commitments and all of that. Some days it's like giving permission for the team and yourself to go, I'm not going to answer the 300 emails today. I'm only going to answer 100. And that's okay as well. And I think as we move into the new normal, we have to allow that a little bit more, because I was a bit gung-ho. I was like on all the time at the beginning of COVID, and now I'm like, actually, I need to balance it out. Otherwise, I'm just going to be completely exhausted.
That's very true, because managing all this is really important, because you also need to make sure your mental health is good. Like you're not overstressed always, like, and you are trying to balance things out so that you also can be like peacefully impact or like have a positive impact both in your personal life and your professional career.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree with what you said, Vandana. I think if you're not at peace with yourself and you're not happy, I don't think you can do well in your personal life or your professional life. It becomes really difficult. So I think it's important to find that first before you go on to achieving everything that you want. That's super important.
That's very true. Thank you so much for having a lovely discussion. Like, it was great interacting with you all. I know we are like almost close to time and we have to move ahead for today, but it's an honor to have you all here and like as part of the panel discussion. It was great like speaking with you all and like learning your design journeys, your thoughts, and some of the feelings you have about how do you handle things around in today's current situation, I would say. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Vandana.
Thank you. Thanks.
we have our next session. We would be having an interactive job board where we will be sharing some of the job posts that we have for today. So starting with, so this is being like sponsored by Yomo Design Jobs, and if any of the organizations or companies who are there today here would like to share any jobs, please feel free to send us an email through this link, and then maybe we will be like posting your jobs on the design job board on our events. So yeah, so moving on, like we have one of our hiring managers from Microsoft who would be sharing this job post with us. So this is a job post for a user researcher with 4 years of experience, and location is Hyderabad. Hi, Sachin.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Happy to have you here. Would you like to share some thoughts in terms of what this job is about, and any specific skills that you're looking at from the candidate?
So we've been hiring at multiple levels at the research as well as on the design. So this is very specific to that that mindset of a researcher, which can understand how consumers and the customers and the users are actually have been dealing with the products which Microsoft builds. So we've been kind of doing a lot of interactive sessions with the users. Specifically post-pandemic, we have realized that there is a shift in paradigm, the way products are being perceived now. So we would like the person who is onboarding to have that understanding, that maturity, and experience. 4 to 20 years, it doesn't matter. What we have is multiple layers of, once you apply here, we would be able to kind of map you appropriately to the products or the levels.
Sure. Thank you, Sachin. So we also have another job post that is senior designer. Experience they are looking for is 8 to 10 years. Again, this location that is being posted for is Hyderabad. Some of the skills is expertise in Sketch, Figma, Photoshop, and related tools. Experience with prototyping and envisioning. Sachin, would you like to talk anything specific that you're looking for this for an ideal candidate for this particular role, other than what's described?
Yes. So the having a senior person here, we have actually kind of developed a framework where we know that a designer is expected to design. Of course, apart from that, there is this creating a clarity, delivering excellence, making sure that your design propositions are with that what we call scout mindset. When we realize that people are biased towards certain set of things, whether it is about colors, whether it is about religions, genders. It is impossible to have that unbiased mindset, but it is a possibility to what we call scout mindset, where you're okay to have a bias, but when you see the facts, when you see the evidences objectively, it becomes easier for a designer to propose. So understanding those research insights and translating them into the solutions, that's something which we are kind of looking at when we hire senior designers.
So hey Sachin, how are you?
Yeah.
Hi Bapu.
Hi Babu, welcome.
So I have one question, Sachin. So what is the process actually? Is there anything like you have to go through a test, or what is actually the basic qualification? Do you have to be go like kind of traditional design education? Do you have to have that? What are you looking for?
So the process is a little bit different now with the pandemic. We have started realizing that people whom we used to meet in person, the way we would actually look at the craft, now suddenly has changed. People, when we give a design problem and people are whiteboarding in front of us, in front of the panel, it becomes very easy to kind of understand what they are working on and how they think about certain things. So more than having a specific certificate in your hand, we are actually looking for people who have given that thought, being able to zoom out and zoom in at the required place, being able to see things holistically. And this particular process, involves, first of all, going through the portfolio reviews. I know we have been having a discussion about portfolio at the very senior level, might not be, very apt thing, but for the senior designer as well as for the design researchers, and people have been presenting their work. In the process, we typically ask them to present. Of course, the portfolio should speak for itself. Uh, Even when they are not presenting, even when they just send it out to the panelists, it should speak for itself. It should have that clarity of, a couple of projects, if they have been able to explain clearly what was the thought process behind coming to that particular design proposition, that actually helps us. The portfolio has got a very strong hold here. We've seen that people are able to present something which is possible, that it is not, which doesn't get technically maybe translated. But even as a designer, if you have a dream state, if you would have had no constraints, what would you think of? I personally have seen that actually is a very nice thing to do, because as a designer, you're supposed to have that dream of how you see futuristic vision of that particular product. So other limitations around tech feasibility and all can be tackled in a later stage, but at least a designer should have that capability to think beyond those limitations. That's one of those things which we have noticed goes as a first layer of thing, and then of course round interviews where people will be given some design problems to solve.
Sure. And also, are you open for internships?
Yes, there are internship positions. There is a unit which is actually active doing this thing. You can always send me a mail in case there are people who are interested to see the internship opportunities here.
Great, thank you. Vandana, you have any questions?
Yeah, I just one question. So, if you, I know like portfolio is one first step that you would be looking at for someone who is applying for this job. But are there any specific tips or some thoughts that what one could include in the portfolio that you are looking at, like anything specific in terms of project type or challenging project, or some kind of tips for some of our candidates?
So there are places where I've seen that people do use. It's a good question, because what I was answering earlier also was in line with this, that people can talk about their work. There might be 10 years worth of work which they want to present, but there could be a couple of those projects which are very highlight, and I proudly want to flaunt that this is what I achieved or accomplished. Thought process behind that actually makes us understand how and your role in that portfolio. Sometimes it is like you have pasted certain screenshots of the work, but it is difficult for us to note what exactly was your part of, what was your role in creating that particular thing. So that's something which will actually help in the initial screening itself. If we can match, if there is a fitment, is that the thing which we are looking at from the candidate.
Thank you, Sachin, for sharing that tips. I hope the candidates can take it from here, and I hope you get like good candidates. All the best.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Bapu. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So for our next job post, we have a job post from EQ Technology. EQ Technologic. Sorry about that. Misspell. Okay. So this position is for senior designer, and the experience they are looking for is 5 to 7 years, and the location is Pune. So we have Bhakti from the organization who would like to would you like to share some thoughts in terms of what kind of candidate are you looking for for this position?
Sure. So, hey, hi everybody. Very good evening, folks here in India, and good day in other time zones. Yes, about the job posting. Yes, the The current job posting that we see on the screen is 5 to 7 years. That is true. And while as we are also very actively looking for interns. So let me talk on the range of what we are looking for. So EQ Technologic is a product company. It's a product which the product suite really deals with cutting edge technology solutions which aid the uh, data migration, integration, reporting, and analytics. So we are heavily into the complex domains of enterprise applications, and we are looking for very passionate people who have passion for designing enterprise applications. So when I'm saying that, this particular job role, yes, the predominantly the development team is based out of Pune, and hence the location is Pune based. Now that all of us are already working from home, it's almost a remote kind of operation already for every one of us. From a design perspective, it is, like I said, it is enterprise applications that we predominantly deal with, and that is exactly where the UX design practice also caters to in EQ. The kind of people we are looking for is, first of all, it is a mid-size firm. We are heavily evangelizing the user experience practice here. So we are looking for people who have the fire in the belly, yeah, who have and like I totally agree with Sachin's view. It is about the thought process. It is about the attitude. It is about the go do it kind of a zeal there. Yeah. So that is precisely what we are looking for. Also, a very strong hold in dealing with complex domains, complex data, big data, and also since we are also into analytics, visualizations play a very heavy role in the work that we do. So that because the end users are almost like engineering, like users, so that is where most of our end users would be. So understanding that kind of domain is an advantage to a very high extent. So that is precisely what the job profile is, and a very open environment, I would say. And I'll invite questions if there are any.
Great. And how big is your design team?
So right now we are a team size of around 5 to 6 individuals, Bapu. But it is we are growing. So, and like I said, we are heavily also interacting with design schools on internships already, and we are looking at growing because this practice is positioned at a very different level than what it was. So we are growing big way.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
also, like, what do you actually look into, like when they have to apply?
Mhm.
What is the qualification you're looking at? I know 5 to 7 experience from
Yeah.
portfolio perspective or the
Right.
education perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. So we are inviting individuals from all walks of life. What I have seen so far is, yes, the design school graduates, of course, also people from industry who have got adequate experience and the know and the depth of the knowledge there are also invited to apply. That is the kind of uh, basic, I would say, need that we are looking at. Also, from a work portfolio perspective, the way I would look at a work portfolio is more about gauging the thought process. How has the assignment or any kind of engagement that the designer has been into, how did it start? And how did the designer approach that? Also, from an UX design perspective, how was the design articulated or first of all the needs understood and articulated from point A to B, B to C, and so on till the end outcome actually. So it's more about thought process. It is more about the approach, also the kind of risks that were there, how they were gauged and how they were resolved time to time. And if there were any challenges, typically there are challenges, I mean all of us deal with that. So what were the typical challenges, what's the role the person played, whether it is within the team as an individual contributor, what is the contribution and the differentiating user experience that the designer designer contributed to. It's quite possible that there are factors like feasibility, there are factors like technology stack, making through some designs and some not. There are also external factors like some of the designs made it to the day and not. But then again, by the end of the day, it is the designer's attitude of how they see it and how they get into it heads on. That is one part of it. Also looking at their own work from a third person perspective, as in if there was something wrong, that should be fine, but then again, what are the learnings and how they can be utilized or converted into opportunities and so on. So it is also about the mindset, how positive we can look at our own failures. That those are certain aspects I definitely look at.
Sure. So in fact, we have very good number of women designers are looking for internships and all. We'll be
Yeah,
in touch with you. Maybe we'll invite
absolutely.
you to give a talk to them so that they'll
Will do.
also gain insights about your company, at the same time how to prepare themselves for a job.
Will
Yeah,
do. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, Vandana, you have any questions?
I had one question, maybe for Bhakti. Like, I know this is for an enterprise org, but like, is there any like, if are you open to candidates having all kinds of portfolio options
Absolutely.
or varieties, or like only specific enterprise related?
Not really. So we are looking at basically design. If we see at the end of the day, it is agnostic. Yeah, how you deal with it makes it differentiating versus not. So all the work samples, all kinds of work are welcome as part of the portfolio. It's not just the enterprise application, because complexity can lie at various levels within the enterprise application and outside. But how you deal with it is more important than what you actually get into. Also, there are several factors that come into play of what kind of design engagement a designer gets into time and again. There are many other factors like what are those assignments assigned to the person? Did the person get an opportunity or not? So that those are all external factors. We wouldn't put that bucket for a particular talented individual. That's
Sure.
how I see it.
Thank you, Bhakti, for answering that. I hope candidates can take it from here. All the best on choosing the right candidate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the next job, we have a job for user experience designer. This is from MSN Designs, and they are looking for 4 years experience for the candidate, 4+ or more than 4. This location is in Pune, and some of the skills that they are looking for in an ideal candidate is ability to do research, create and present product user journey maps, user task flows, interaction models, storyboards, and a thorough understanding of user experience design. So feel free to apply through the email posted here. That's annies@emniscent.com. So moving on, so that's
Yeah.
pretty much about all the job posts that we have today. Babu, sir, would you like to talk anything additional about the job posts?
No, no, I think I request to people actually, if they really want to share their thoughts, not just posting in portals and somewhere. I think the way today Bhakti and Sachin actually explained, it actually gives a clear clarity on what they're really looking for. So, and also you can actually ask questions in the comments so that, we can pose those questions. So then it'll be nice to understand from them. So we encourage all those companies to post their jobs, and also people who are really looking for apply and also ask questions. Yeah. Anything, Vandana, you want to before we close on today?
That's mostly about it. There, you give a good glance on like how one could, how our organization could post jobs and what kind of information they should be putting in to give the candidates an opportunity or understand what kind of jobs are there and like how they could apply for some of these job posts. Thank you,
Sure,
Babu.
great. And please share any feedback or anything to improve these sessions. We're looking forward to see you next week.
Thank you all for attending today's session.
Thank you.